Good morning, shit biscuits. Alright, I'll be the first to admit, I don't really give a shit what age demographic watches my videos. Cause quite frankly, it's not my responsibility to look after that shit. But to keep the communism of YouTube off my back, I will go ahead and say that if you are under the age of 18, I would not advise you watch these videos. Cause these tend to get violent and have a lot of cussing. Again, I personally don't give a fuck. But at the same time, I'm not about to leave myself open for an attack. So, 18 or older, you're cool. Under that, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay, Godzilla 2014. Why exactly am I re-uploading this one? Because everything went according to plan, all the clips lined up and everything, and, I got the intro and the outro rightly aligned and all that shit, and it wasn't copyright claimed, so what the fuck am I re-uploading this for? Simple. Back when I first uploaded this video, I had a really dark and hard to see copy of the film that I actually recorded off of film clips or whatever that YouTube channel is called. And now I actually have an HD version of the film that you can see all the scenes very clearly and very elegantly, as I like to put it. So really, I don't need to re-upload this video, but for the sake of my own sanity and for the fact that I just fucking adore this movie, yeah, I'm doing it anyway, so here you go.
Let's rewind back to 2014, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, there are truly dark times ahead of us. The only franchise that hasn't truly been butchered is that of Dragon Ball and somewhat Marvel. Everything else has been destroyed. Whoever will save us? Oh!
Dun, dun, dun.
Alright, Noah. Are you ready? Are you ready, good sir, to start the modern era of kaiju? Starting with Godzilla 2014.
Oh, one could say, let's let off a loud-ass fucking roar.
Yeah, no kidding. We're actually gonna have to talk about that in the background of this film here in just a second. First of all, the background of this movie a little bit. So, unfortunately, Godzilla Final Wars in 2004 didn't really perform as well as they thought it would at the box office, and so, obviously, Godzilla would have to take a break. And yeah, unfortunately, Godzilla would go on a 10-year hiatus. In fact, actually use that, no, it's just 10 years. And yeah, in that time, apparently, Toho thought it was a good idea to allow American studio Legendary Pictures to have a second attempt at an American produced Godzilla film. And honestly, I am extremely happy that they did that. Because, yes, whereas the 1998 film did completely fail the series, honestly, I feel as though that movie was not even on the people's minds in this one, other than the design, because initially Godzilla was supposed to look like he did in 1998 in this movie a little bit. Thank God they changed that. Yeah, bro. Godzilla 2014 basically was, as we mentioned, is released in 2014, and, well, bro, 2014 basically saved cinemas as a whole in America, at least for a temporary period of time, because this movie was released in an era when people were starting to try reboots and shit of a lot of popular films and shit, and they're still doing that today. And to top it all off, unfortunately, film studios were also trying and failing to replicate what exactly the MCU was accomplishing, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Godzilla 2014 came onto the scene and basically set the bar for any reboots that anyone wanted to make, because, yeah, bro, straight up, the 2014 film is an amazing film, and it was basically what people sort of wanted to exemplify as a reboot that was done properly. Even if it was only for a short amount of time, like we already said. And unfortunately, this is the most controversial era of Godzilla, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that we talk about in this video that is going to get us screamed at. And as for this cast, there are a lot of scenes that were actually removed from this film for the sake of time, and I feel as though those scenes would have been better, but at the same time, I still do feel as though this film does have a great premise and great execution. So yeah, with that being said, yeah, Noah, do you want to cover the 2014 film directed by Gareth Edwards' cast?
Yep. So, I'm guessing this is the part where I list off the cast members?
Yes, that's what I just said.
Okay. Anyways, I haven't been able to find many, but I did find the important ones.
Alright.
We got Aaron Tyler Johnson as U.S. Navy POD LT Ford Brody. You might recognize this actor from Avengers Age of Extinction. No, that's another movie entirely. Avengers Age of Ultron as Quicksilver.
Yep.
And we also have, we have Elizabeth Olsen as Ellie Brody, as you also recognize as Wanda Maximoff from Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yep.
Oh yes, in that movie they were siblings. This movie they're fucking a married couple. With a kid.
Yeah, and that has lent them to a lot of scrutiny over the years. We're just gonna ignore that.
Ken Watanabe as Dr. Ishiro Serizawa. And we have Juliette Binoche. I do not know if I said her name correctly, but she plays Sandra Brody as Ford's mother. Let's see if I can find... Yep, there we go. We have Bryan Cranston as Joe Brody, who was he was not used to the full extent, unfortunately.
No, he was not. And that
he was
really,
like one of those
really pisses me off.
He was one of those characters who was able to solve problems, but he was just too good, so they had to kill him off. He was too good to be true.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, we're gonna talk more about him in later scenes, or in later parts of this video, but go ahead and continue.
Right, we have also Sally Hawkins as Dr. Vivian Graham. I do not know if I said her name correctly.
Vivian Graham.
And we have David Strathairn as Admiral William Stenz. And then we have T.J. Storm as Godzilla. Mocap performance.
Indeed. And yeah, bro. Once again, I do like the fact that this is a small human cast, because each and every single person does get their time to shine in the movie, even if Bryan Cranston is basically treated like shit. Yeah. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and get to the brief rundown of the film. Oh, and also, a major theme behind this film, power of nature. But yeah, that is quickly dropped in the grand scheme of the plot, so fuck it. Anyways, the brief rundown. So, back in 1954, by the way, this is the first reboot that does not have the original 1954 film as a canon part of the series. I do want to mention that and get that out of the way immediately. Back in 1954, a giant monster was seen in Bikini Atoll, I believe. And, the American military attempted to actually kill it using nuclear weapons. However, they didn't want to let the whole world know that, giant monsters are around, so they decided to mask this murder attempt as nothing more than nuclear weapons testing. Even though it didn't even do anything to Godzilla except make him stronger. And then, nothing happened after that. And what?
Just went to take a nap afterwards.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, in 1999, two scientists, Dr. Ishiro Serizawa and Dr. Vivian Graham, they appear at a Philippine mine, that had been, drilled into so much that a piece of the ground actually caved in underneath of it, revealing a massive chamber that has two giant monster spores in it. One of them burst open and the other one closed. As well as the fact that it's inside of a giant kaiju skeleton that is similar to that of Godzilla. And, one of these kaiju that was in the open spore burrows its way out and makes its way to a Japanese power plant in Janjira, Japan. It proceeds to destroy the power plant, causing not only irreparable damage to the city at large, but also irreparable damage to our main human protagonist's family, as not only is his mother killed, but, well, his dad trying to find answers basically goes crazy. And, time passes, and years later, in the year 2014, Ford Brody from the opening has not only grown up and become a military bomb technician in the American Special Forces, but, well, he finally gets the chance to go home. And is immediately called over to Japan because his dad got arrested and he's got to bail his ass out. Jesus Christ, this dude can't catch a break, can he? And while he's there, his dad convinces him to basically explore the nuclear zone that basically everyone who works there claims is a death zone. And while they're there, they basically realize that, holy shit! Freaking Joe Brody was right, and the government is just hiding a lot of shit behind here, so obviously this gives them incentive to look around more. And they eventually find that, well, a secret organization called Monarch, founded after the 1954 incident involving Godzilla, they have basically established a base around this thing, and around this spore that has basically popped up, and they are trying to contain the giant monster within. However, despite their best efforts, it wakes up and begins to wreak havoc. And then all of a sudden, turns out, hey, the spore that was found back in 1999, it was still around. And it was not actually dead, it was only dormant. And so it hatches, and now they must find a way to destroy the Mutos, as they're called in this film. Otherwise, Godzilla will come forth, and he will restore balance to the world. Wait, isn't that a good thing? So that's the brief rundown of this film. And, bro, this movie is fantastic, and I cannot get enough of it. Do you want to talk about this film, any before I take it away, Noah?
I will say, the whole Muto situation, we both know they are trying to breed and make multiple Muto offspring.
Yeah.
But what I could say, incest at its finest.
Oh, God! Yeah! Pretty much! God damn it, Noah.
Yeah, because those two are technically siblings.
They're not technically siblings, they are siblings. God damn it, Noah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just had to point that out.
Okay, well, we're gonna talk about the human action now, and hope that that never comes up again. Oh my god. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and discuss the, human actors and action in this film. First of all, Ken Watanabe and Bryan Cranston. Easily the two best human characters in this film. Yes, Ken Watanabe is not used to his full potential in this film, and yes, his character in this film can basically be summed up as stare at the monsters, make inspirational speech, and do nothing. But nevertheless, freaking Ken Watanabe's character is well written in this film, and despite the fact that they don't really use his potential all that well, I do think that it was a fantastic choice bringing him into this movie and into the MonsterVerse as a whole. Then there's Bryan Cranston. Good God, it is criminal what they did to him. Bryan Cranston steals the goddamn show in the first act of the film. His acting is brilliant. The lines he was given are goddamn inspirational and just amazing to listen to as they're performed by the actor. And not only that, but honestly, I really wish as though Bryan Cranston got more time to shine, because I feel like he was the highlight of this, one of the highlights of this movie. But then he gets killed in the first act. What the actual fuck? God damn it, Bryan Cranston really deserved better. But, unfortunately, we do have to deal with the fact that he died too early. And honestly, I feel as though his presence in later Godzilla films would have increased their value. But now, let's go ahead and talk about, one of the underrated actors in this film, in my opinion. We have, Aaron Taylor Johnson. And people give him a lot of shit in this movie because, I'll be frank with you, his character is written poorly. But that's not a problem with the actor. That is a problem with the writing staff. See, a lot of people make this mistake where it's like, oh, well, just because freaking the lines that he says are stupid, that must mean that the actor is bad. No, it's not. As we saw in Avengers Age of Ultron, as Noah pointed out earlier, Aaron Taylor Johnson is a fantastic actor. He was just dealt a very short stick in this movie. And really, the only thing he contributes to the film is blowing up the Muto nest to give Godzilla a minute to catch his breath. That's it! That is it! And I really hate that because, yeah, I feel like they could have done a hell of a lot more with his character. And it sucks. It really does.
Yeah.
But if we talk about the human action being, decent, well, Noah, there's the monster action. Is there anything you would like to say about the monster action before we dive head first into this ride of awesome?
Well, before I even actually talk about any sort of monster action, this fucking, not only the visual effects, but the goddamn sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives you the sense of scale and power that is sometimes hard to see in the other Goji movies.
Indeed.
Because if we look back on the female Muto scene with the rail tracks, you just might just get goosebumps from it, because goddamn, is that just menacing.
Yeah, and creepy as shit too when she's walking over Ford and what's his face and dangling her eggs in front of him.
Yeah.
And actually, what you just said about the monsters being like having their size showcased to the fullest, that was actually by design, because the majority of shots in this film are shot specifically to show the size and the power of these monsters, and I think that was one of the best decisions they made.
Like as I said before, just the sound effects just give you the sense of raw power and just size. And then once we actually get to Godzilla, we actually feel like it's possible that he'd be a real thing. Just not only the visual effects, but the sound effects, his roar, his fucking roar.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it's interesting that you mentioned that roar sounds realistic, because that roar was actually designed by like a sound studio or whatever in the that was set up in the middle of like a city or something, or set up in the middle of like a like an alleyway or a street or something, and it was specifically broadcast for that very reason, to understand how Godzilla's roar would sound in the middle of a city. And bro, we're just gonna say this right now, that broadcast could be heard for 3 miles. How the hell they didn't have their eardrums burst is beyond me, but you know, I mean, they did bring Godzilla back from essentially the brink of collapse and make him cool again, so I'm not gonna question it.
Yeah. Still though, goddamn. Because we talked about that roar, it's arguably one of the coolest Godzilla scenes yet. Just him simply roaring is just goddamn.
Indeed,
and
it is.
As we talked about, I believe, the Muto's ability to just short circuit electronics and basically give Goji a disadvantage. When it comes to fighting, this Goji is experienced. This is not your average normal Goji that was born from being a normal dinosaur in radiation. No, this guy has lived for centuries, fighting and learning. So if people just think that, oh god, you were shooting for Teen Sweet because he was so slow, he took so many hits, you gotta go. No, that's because he was trying to regain. He's basically just readapt to being awake again in this new world, with humans now having planes, missiles, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we do see the atomic breath, yeah, of course, people are gonna say, "Hey, that looks sweet." It's because the Mutos is literally nerfing him.
Yeah, and a combination of both made Godzilla weaker than he actually was in, would have been if he had waited a little longer.
Yeah. Of course, Goji's gonna be very fatigued. He's been asleep for countless centuries. Only to wake up, if anybody has read the 2014 fill-in comic, he woke up to chase down another monster that was just kind of wearing him out. And what was that comic called again? One that was made for 2014.
Awakens, I believe.
Yeah, Godzilla Awakens.
And that's another thing we have to bring up when it comes to the Monsterverse. The comics and the movies. First of all, the comics introduce a hell of a lot of continuity errors that a lot of people don't really consider to be canon in the actual films, but honestly, I don't really see why, because the comics do explain a lot of shit that makes sense in the movies. Unfortunately, however, a lot of Godzilla fans in America just want to watch Godzilla movies and not bother reading about it in comics because they're lazy shitheads.
But yeah, anyways, back to the point of Goji being worn and tired. Like, even with several disadvantages, fucking being nerfed by another kaiju's ability, motherfucker still got up and fight. And then the way he just kills both of the Mutos.
Muy caliente.
And then we go to the human side, which actually did help a bit. They weren't completely useless, like in some other Goji movies. As said before, Ford was able to blow up the Muto nest, causing them to be distracted, giving Goji just enough time to catch his breath and start charging up his atomic breath, which, my god, was just a scene to behold. If you can, bro, show it.
I cannot show the full thing because it'll get copyrighted, but I will definitely show as much as I can. Cue it up! Absolutely fucking kick-ass, bro. And yeah, man. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I completely agree, because Godzilla in this movie, he is a sight to behold, and bro, I'm just waiting for you to be done with your stuff so I can take it away, because there's so much I want to say about this Godzilla design.
Yeah.
It's just astonishing.
And just the sound effects they use for the atomic breath just give it a sense of power as he charges it up. Anyways, I don't know what else is left to say for my side, even though I do kind of want to mention the Muto deaths, but I'll let you take it away from here on, man.
Alrighty. I want to talk about the Mutos first so we can save the best for last, but I can't resist. I'm gonna talk about Godzilla first. My man is a fucking brilliant designed and brilliantly written kaiju in this movie. Alright, first of all, let's talk about his design. Godzilla in this film, the way his fighting style is adapted and a lot of his features, including the head and his upper body, and some inspiration even for the tail, interestingly enough, was actually modeled after, or inspired by Komodo dragons and bears, with a little bit of eagle flair thrown into the head to give this Godzilla a sense of nobility. And I fucking love that about this Godzilla. The way he looks and the way he acts in this film is goddamn perfect, and it shows his character almost to a T. And as Noah said, Godzilla in this film is a lot weaker than he should be, and he still charges into battle, because Godzilla, and this actually really has me happy, because they basically make Godzilla as realistic as possible in this film, whilst also keeping him unbelievably large and kick-ass. You see, it's no surprise, seeing as, well, it's Godzilla, that the majority of his body is clearly inspired by reptiles. And in this film, well, they take that a step further by introducing his mannerisms. And Godzilla has basically been in a state of hibernation for basically since the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs hit the planet. So a lot longer than thousands of years, Noah. He's been asleep for 65 million years in a deep state of hibernation, and hibernation induced by the actual meteor because it hit near or directly on top of him. And as a result, he's basically forced into hibernation for 65 million years. Which the fact that he can survive for 65 million years just sleeping without having to get up and get something to eat is in and of itself broken, but whatever. Then there's the fact that Godzilla basically acts like a realistic portrayal of a reptile, like a crocodile, because that's how reptiles in the real world work, like snakes and crocodiles, for example. When they come out of hibernation, and believe me, I myself have seen this in alligator mannerisms at like zoos and shit. Crocodiles and snakes and other reptiles and shit, once they come out of hibernation, well, a good chunk of them need at least a day just to get their bodies ready to go and ready to, act on the shit that they need to do every day. And the fact that they portray Godzilla in a realistic way like that is actually really awesome to me. And not only that, but yeah, Godzilla's atomic breath. Yes, it is weaker than it should be, but that is by design because the Mutos are weakening his atomic breath. They're basically specifically designed to take down Godzilla's. And that's the thing, they're not even really that good at it because Godzilla was still able to kill him, even though he's basically a crippled old man in this movie and he needs a minute to wake up. Seriously, dude, if Godzilla had waited just like another few days to go fight the Mutos, he probably would have been able to kill them without even so much as, using his atomic breath at all. But nevertheless, though, I still love the fact that Godzilla, even though he didn't really stand much of a chance, he still charged headfirst into battle, displaying his nobility. Which brings me to my favorite scene in the film. Godzilla, and we'll talk more about how he fights here in just a minute, but Godzilla, when he kills the male Muto, and then the building starts to fall. Once again, this is as realistic as possible portrayal of the King of the Monsters. So, before you say, oh, well, Gfanatic, he was too tired to move, and he was too tired to move out of the way. No, he wasn't. That is not how reptiles work. If a reptile is too tired to move, they're too tired to stand. So, the scene where Godzilla puts his life on the line to stop a falling building from crushing a handful of human civilians. I love this scene because, yeah, we've seen Godzilla go out of his way before to save people in the Showa series, but this is the first time we've ever seen Godzilla genuinely put his life on the line to save what is essentially some insignificant ants to him. And I love that about this Godzilla, especially portraying the nobility of the character and getting his character down to a T. Only to have it get fucked up in Godzilla vs. Kong in 2021. Not fucked up, but,
It's a balance of nature thing, so...
yeah.
He had his reasons.
Yeah, but we'll be talking about that, later. And as for, Godzilla's fighting style in this film. One, yes, he's sluggish, and yes, as I explained before, it's because he's coming out of hibernation. But that doesn't mean Godzilla's slacking in terms of battle prowess, because Godzilla? Oh, holy shit, dude. It's not as, obvious to see as it was in the Meyer Goji films back in the Millennium series, but you still see Godzilla adapt his fighting style on the fly. And I love that about Godzilla in any movie I get to see that, because Godzilla, straight up, the Muto that gives him the most trouble is the flying Muto, because the flying Muto is faster, it's able to dodge around and attack him, And Godzilla realizes that if he doesn't kill the Muto in one strike, then basically everything he does to this thing is useless. So finally, when Godzilla gets the opportunity, he makes it count. Oh, fuck yeah. Alright! Yeah, Godzilla kills the male Muto in one shot by hitting the male Muto and specifically using the part of his tail that has the sharp dorsals on the upper side of it to impale the Muto as well as slam him into the building. That was incredibly smart and awesome to come up with on the fly. Godzilla, my man, you are fucking legend. No pun intended. I'm kidding. Pun totally intended. Fuck you. Anyways, and as for the way he kills the female Muto, I mean, it doesn't really show any particular upsides to his character, but just one of the more iconic moments of the franchise, and it's just a joy to behold. And, man, just Godzilla's portrayal in this film is fucking incredible. And honestly, I feel as though if they would have done a bit more with the human aspect of this film, and if they would have, had Godzilla go through an actual character arc, I feel like this movie would have been easily the best, like one of, if not the best Godzilla film there was. However, unfortunately, beggars can't really be choosers, and this movie, even though it does have its flaws, does have a great amount of upsides, and those upsides make it all the more worth it. Now, as for the Mutos. Now, is there anything you want to say about the designs for the Mutos?
They're simple, but effective.
Indeed they are. Yeah, the Mutos, easily one of the highlights of the film. The Mutos in this movie are awesome to look at, first of all. Second of all, their story, even though some of it does feel a little forced, is organic and believable. And their designs are refreshing and just amazing to look at. Their designs essentially, like, a lot of inspiration for insects was taken and used as inspiration for the Muto designs, even though, according to the actual director of the film, they actually basically have more in common with mammals than they do, insects, and that is really interesting to me. And if the MonsterVerse does continue the way it looks like it's going to, I would really like to see maybe some sort of, maybe some other new and interesting kaijus that have some of the same qualities as the Mutos. And I love the fact that they also have the sexual dimorphism with the Mutos, whereas the females are bigger, but they are less, mobile, whereas the males are smaller and stronger, but whereas the males are smaller and can fly, but they're also stronger. And overall, dude, I think the Mutos are a fantastic addition to the Godzilla franchise, and I hope to see more of them, even if it's just, in tiny little pittances. But yeah, man. With that being said, seeing as how this is the Reiwa and MonsterVerse era that we're about to go into, we have to cover the fact that these movies are easily the most controversial Godzilla movies of all time.
Oh yeah, that's definitely for sure. Oh god. As we later saw in 2019, foot wars were caused by some of the movies.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, for the Reiwa era and the MonsterVerse, we introduce the controversy section of these videos. And the 2014 controversy is a pretty big one. There are a few of them, actually. First of all, Godzilla's design. You see, back when Godzilla 2014 was still in production and wasn't released yet, Godzilla's design wasn't really shown, so not a lot of people had a lot to say about it. It's only when the movie was released in full and Godzilla's design was shown in its full capacity when apparently Toho Studios decided that, you know what, they didn't like Godzilla in this movie because he was, quote, too fat. Fucking excuse you, Toho? Alright, so, yeah, we'll be talking more about this when we do the Reiwa and Monsterverse recap, but I'm sorry, I don't believe for a second that Toho said that, because if they did, then that's a bit stupid and hypocritical, because Toho themselves have had Godzillas that are much more fat than 2014 is, and yet still they decided to call this guy fat? Yeah, bullshit. And Toho, if you did say that, I'm fucking ashamed of you. Especially considering you didn't say a goddamn thing about 2021. Nevertheless, though, then there's also the controversy of, you know, the Mutos. You see, the Mutos in this film are portrayed as, you know, these kaiju that were specifically designed to attack and like basically be able to fight Godzillas. And then in 2019, well, basically they portray the Queen Muto as being submissive to Godzilla. And that got a lot of fans of the Mutos in this movie outraged. Honestly, rightfully so, but also not rightfully so, because ultimately, I don't, trust me, we will be talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters here soon, and especially the extreme fatal flaws with it, but overall, I don't really see a problem with them showing the Queen Muto as submissive in 2019. I do, however, have a problem with the simple fact that people are, you know, like, trying to cause controversies over nothing when it comes to these movies. And we will be covering more of the 2014 design controversy when we cover the 2019 film. That being said, Noah, are you ready for tomorrow?
Well, let's just say, voices of the damned will not be heard when God strikes it down. For the fate of evolution has other plans.
Mm-hmm. With the rise of Godzilla 2014, Toho decided to release another Japanese Godzilla film that is easily one of the greatest Godzilla films of all time. I say that with a heavy heart because I know that a lot of people are confused as to which my favorite Godzilla movie is going to be. We'll probably do a top 10 video for that next year as a Godzilla birthday celebration. But ladies and gentlemen, join us tomorrow as we take a look at the 2016 film Shin Godzilla. Oh, fuck. This is gonna be good. See you tomorrow, ladies and gents. Oh, wait, shit, we actually forgot. Noah, who would you recommend 2014 to? Get that off this. Get that up.
Oh, fuck.
Who would you recommend audience-wise for Godzilla 2014?
As you see, seeing as how it leads them into more of a creepy factor, well, in terms of the Mutos, some children might be fucking horrified. I'd honestly say for, like, older kids, teenagers, and adults, in terms of age-wise, so yeah.
Alrighty.
I'll let you say that.
Well, in terms of people I would recommend this film to, again, controversies aside, I am going to go ahead and say that I would absolutely recommend hardcore Godzilla fans watch this movie. And even basic Godzilla fans, because Godzilla's portrayal in this movie is pitch perfect. And honestly, I mean, I love the 2014 design and I love the film, but I will say that if you're not a fan of, slow build-ups, don't watch this movie, because not only does it have a slow build-up, but because of Godzilla basically coming out of hibernation, the fighting is a little slow. That's not a problem with the movie, that's more just a problem with other people's, preferences. Other than that, though, hardcore Godzilla fans and anyone who, especially science fiction fans are going to adore this movie, and I feel as though this movie is severely underrated, and honestly, I really hope we see the 2014 design again in later films, because this is a diamond in the rough. See you tomorrow for Shin Godzilla, everybody. Noah, post that picture again.
Well, I need to find it again.
Oh, fuck.
But yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
See you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen.
In this circle of void.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Just a quick reminder before the end of the video, I would like to ask y'all to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you'd be so inclined, I would not mind it if y'all would share this video with anyone you deem fit. But with that being said, that's everything we have for today, and have a good one.